curious, when you were competing, did you ever, because a lot of people don't like the appearance of bodybuilders, they think it's kind of grotesque. Did you, was that hard for you to deal with people saying to you, you look hard, you're too big, you're too...
No. As a matter of fact, I was always a bit of a rebel throughout my life, and the thought that I would be different from other people never bothered me, and when I heard that it bothered other people, it even gave me more impetus to continue training.
That's a good philosophy. I'm sure a lot of their negative comments come from jealousy, because
I think so too.
The dedication that requires to look, like when you're competing is just tremendous.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've talked to many people in the past who claimed initially they didn't like the look of a bodybuilder. Then I would bring them to a physique contest and show them the magazine. Over a period of time, their standards changed. They didn't feel as threatened.
We've got a picture of Mike on the monitor here also.
Look at that picture.
Excuse me, Mike.
That was taken a few years ago, I must say.
But you can see the dedication that would take to look like that. I mean, that's hours and hours and hours of training there.
How many years was that to get to that point?
Well, that was 11 years ago. A photograph taken right before the 1980 Mr. Olympia contest, and I had been training at that point for about 15 years, off and on, but for about 7 years straight through right before that. But an important point, Anthony, I did not train for hours and hours every day, and this is an important issue.
Oh, okay.
Contrary to what most bodybuilders do, which is train 2 to 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, to obtain that condition, I trained literally for 30 minutes 4 times a week, 2 hours a week.
Actually, there's not a whole lot I look back upon with much regret. What I was doing many years ago certainly seemed brief and infrequent in comparison to what everybody else was doing. If I had made one mistake many years ago with regards to training, it was, despite having been the arch advocate of lesser training, I was still overtraining. There has never been, and this is something I made clear to Dorian recently and it got him excited, there has never been a bodybuilder that has achieved the absolute upper limits of his genetic potential. In order to do so, you have to provide the body with the proper stimulus all the way through. I was the only bodybuilder who understood the general theory of high-intensity training advanced by Arthur Jones, namely that to be productive, training has to be intense, brief, and infrequent. But even though I understood it, I made mistakes with regard to the application of the theory.
Part of the confusion results from the fact that they try to take physical definitions of work as applied to a machine and apply that to a human being. For example, the definition of work and the definition of power as normally applied to a machine are not applicable to a human being. What if you stand with a barbell in your hands at the mid-range of possible movement with your forearms parallel to the floor, supporting that weight? There is no movement, either up or down, therefore no work is being performed. Now, since power, by definition, is the rate of work, well, if you're performing zero work, then there's zero power. So you're neither performing work nor are you producing power. Well, now, if that's true, why can't you stand there and hold it forever? Why does your face turn red? Why does your blood pressure elevate? Why do your muscles become tired? Why do you perspire? Why does your metabolic rate increase? And why can't you stand there forever? Since, according to the definition of work and according to the general definition of the accepted definition of power as applied to a machine, you are neither working nor are you producing power. Well, then you're doing nothing. Well, metabolically you are working, because in order to support that weight, you are producing force. Therefore, your muscles are working, regardless of the fact that they are not moving. Therefore, if you raise a weight or if you lower a weight, metabolically you are working. Your muscles are producing force.
My first communication with him was by phone, and it was not really a conversation per se, but a lecture, during which he explained to me in the most precise and scrupulously objective language possible the actual science of productive bodybuilding exercise, the nature of the cause and effect relationship between intense exercise and muscle growth, and why, in light of the body's limited recovery ability, such exercise had to be brief and infrequent.
I've been using all this equipment for about 4.5 years. Why do you think it's better than conventional weight barbells?
Well, there's many things that I could say about it, but all I can say, it gives you the full range of the movement, and with regular conventional exercise, you don't get it at all.
How often do you train now?
Twice a week.
For how long?
About a half an hour.
So your entire training time is an hour a week?
Right.
And you maintain your conditioning with that?
That's right.
Limited training?
Yeah.
Casey Beater, while using the theory of high-intensity training, never understood it. Just blindly following what Arthur Jones told him to do. And this is the way most people train. I understood the general theory of high intensity quite clearly. But again, if I had made one major training mistake, I wasn't training frequently and frequently enough. And there was also a mistake that Arthur Jones was making 20 years ago. The theory that he advanced back in the early 70s, the theory of high-intensity training, whose principles are that exercise has to be intense, frequent, and frequent, is universally valid. But Arthur was missing a very important bit of knowledge back then. And that is the fact that there does exist a wide range of variation among individuals with regards to exercise tolerance. Just as there are certain individuals who don't tolerate exposure to intense sunlight as well as others, there are individuals who don't tolerate intense exercise as well as others. Those are both genetic traits. As I wrote in my new heavy-duty book, all genetic traits are expressed across a broad continuum. Most directly perceivable is height. In regards to height, you've got midgets at one end and the giants of the NBA at the other end of the continuum. With regards to intelligence, you've got morons at the far left and geniuses at the far right, everything in between. Then again, you've got light-skinned individuals who don't tolerate exposure to high-intensity sunlight as well as certain darker skin types do. Well, Arthur didn't know that there does exist a wide range of variation among individuals with regards to exercise tolerance. This led him to issue what was intended as a universal surefire training prescription. Everybody trains a full body 3 days a week. Compared to all the other training methods being espoused at the time, that certainly seemed brief and infrequent. But for many individuals, that literally amounted to gross overtraining. Therefore, a lot of the people who tried high-intensity training back in the 70s didn't make the progress they should have, had they had this one bit of crucial knowledge. As a result, the theory fell into disrepute. It didn't catch on the way it should have. But now I think Arthur does understand, and I understand very clearly this fact that it all has to be applied to individual training programs. I was ignorant of a few things. The main thing I was ignorant about was I didn't realize just how brief and infrequent high-intensity training had to be. I didn't understand precisely how demanding it was on the body. Why an individual, therefore, has to be very, very, very careful to precisely regulate the volume and frequency of his training so as to allow for growth. Understand that high-intensity training does not produce growth, it only stimulates the production of growth. It's the trigger that sets the growth process into motion. The actual production of growth takes place during the rest period. It stands to reason then that if one is doing any more sets or any more workouts in a given unit of time that are minimally required to stimulate an increase, to whatever extent he's doing that, he will hamper and possibly prevent the production of growth.
Let me ask you, amongst the top contenders in the world or competitors, would everybody be training differently, do you think, or do people know that less is actually better for them?
No, they don't. The vast majority of people who train it almost exactly the same way, for 2 to 4 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week.
Now I have my clients training as little as 15 to 20 minutes every 3 to 4 days. And all my clients make regular progress. Some of them make progress on every set of every workout, every exercise for months and months and months, and that's how it should be. There is no mystery to this thing. If I was to go back into training and try to develop my physique further, I'm sure I would go further. But in the last many years, I've developed new values. And those new values would not allow me to go back and expend the effort required to get back into top physical condition. In some ways, I'm glad the 80 Olympia turned out the way it did. It brought into clear focus for me really what the political establishment in bodybuilding is really all about. Even if I was physically capable of doing it, I would not do it. As part of my new philosophy, I don't believe in competition or comparing myself to others. I especially would not spend months and years to get in shape and then totally disregard the moral character of the people involved and put myself on a stage to be judged by those people. I don't believe any longer in living by a comparative standard. I would not allow other people whose opinion I don't respect to judge me.
In our final minute now, Bill, you got any more questions?
Sure. Mike, do you see yourself coming back again and training again?
Absolutely.
Just kidding.
Not. Absolutely not.
So I realized I was not omniscient back then. I made mistakes. I didn't achieve the upper limits of my physical potential. But that's okay. Now I am striving to achieve the upper limits of my intellectual potential. It's a lot more rewarding.